He laughed in front of everyone. Maybe you, the janitor, should fix our profits next quarter, the white CEO, Ethan, sneered, his voice echoing to the glass conference room. The room filled with forced laughter as his staff tried to please him. But the black woman standing quietly with her mop, Keisha, didn't flinch. She simply looked at him once, calm, steady, and unbothered, before continuing to clean the floor he had just dirted with his arrogance. Ethan leaned back in his leather chair, smirking. Come on, Keisha. Don't be shy. You must have some financial wisdom. You see our numbers every night while mopping the floors, right? The executives chuckled again. Cameras clicked. Someone even whispered, "This is gold." But then Keisha looked up, meeting Ethan's eyes. Her voice was soft but firm. "Careful what you ask for, sir," she said. "You might not like the truth when it comes from someone you think is beneath you." The laughter stopped. Her words hung in the air like lightning before a storm. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening, and the world needs to hear them. After that day, Ethan's jokes spread through the entire building like wildfire. People laughed behind Keisha's back, repeating the story in the break room. The CEO asked the janitor for advice, as if it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. But Keisha never responded. Every morning, she arrived before sunrise, polished the marble floors, emptied the trash, and quietly observed the same people who laughed at her. She listened more than she spoke, and in silence, she noticed everything. She saw the stress in the finance department. She noticed the whispers about negative projections, and she even picked up discarded reports left on desks, the ones filled with red lines and confusing numbers. Keisha had once lived this world, long before anyone here knew her name. She recognized the same patterns she used to warn about years ago, before the same system pushed her out. Meanwhile, Ethan strutted through his office like a king, blaming everyone else for their falling profits. Cut expenses. Fire 2 more managers, he barked, ignoring every warning from his team. He had no idea that the woman cleaning his floor understood the numbers better than anyone in that room, including him. By the end of the month, panic filled the top floor. Sterling Harlow Investments, Ethan's empire, was losing millions by the week. The board demanded answers. Investors threatened to pull out. Ethan slammed his fist on the table. How did this happen? No one spoke. The executives stared at their laptops, pretending to type. That silence only made Ethan angrier. He stormed out of the conference room, and right there in the hallway, he nearly collided with Keisha, who was pushing her cleaning cart. "Watch where you're going," he snapped. Keisha paused. "You seem upset, sir." "Upset? My company's bleeding money, and you think I'm just upset?" He barked. She tilted her head, calm as ever. "Then maybe you should stop firing the people who could fix it." Ethan froze. "Excuse me?" Keisha pointed to a crumpled report sticking out of the trash bin. "You're investing in the wrong markets. Whoever advised you to double down on fossil energy when renewables are rising made a rookie mistake." The hallway went silent. Ethan blinked, confused. "You read that?" Keisha smiled faintly. "I didn't have to. I used to write reports like that." For the first time, Ethan didn't know what to say. "If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe." Ethan stood frozen in the hallway, his confidence cracking for the first time. "You used to write reports like that?" he repeated. Keisha straightened up. "I did. Before people like you decided my skin color meant I couldn't sit at the same table as the ones I trained." The words hit him harder than any investor ever had. He gestured toward his office. "Fine. You think you know so much. Come inside. Let's hear it." Moments later, Keisha stood before the same glass conference table where she once mopped floors. The executives who had mocked her earlier stared in disbelief. Ethan crossed his arms. "Go ahead, enlighten us." Keisha calmly walked to whiteboard. "Your portfolio's overexposed to dying markets," she began. "You're chasing short-term comfort instead of long-term security. You ignored renewables, ignored innovation, and ignored your people." She pointed to their latest loss chart. This line, your pride, is the reason your company's drowning. No one dared to laugh now. Her voice was steady, confident, commanding. For the first time in his career, Ethan listened, really listened. When the meeting ended, the room was silent. Ethan dismissed his staff and asked Keisha to stay behind. For the first time, his tone carried no arrogance, just curiosity. "How do you know all this?" he asked. Keisha hesitated, then sighed. "Because I used to be you." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "I was a financial analyst on Wall Street," she said quietly. "Worked 12 years. Helped build portfolios for billionaires who never remember my name. Then one day, a client refused to shake my hand after finding out I was black. My boss called it a misunderstanding." Her voice didn't crack. It was too tired for that. "They replaced me with someone less controversial. I cleaned out my desk. Eventually, I started cleaning floors." Ethan sat back, speechless. The woman he mocked for entertainment was more qualified than half his board. "You could have worked anywhere," he said softly. Keisha gave a sad smile. "Anywhere that wanted to see me for my work, not my skin. Turns out, that's rarer than I thought." For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then he whispered, "Help me fix what I broke." Keisha nodded once. "Then listen to me this time." 2 weeks later, the entire company gathered for an emergency board meeting. Ethan entered the room with Keisha walking beside him, not pushing a cart, but holding a presentation folder. The same executives who once laughed at her now looked stunned. "Before we start," Ethan said firmly, "I'd like you all to meet our new consultant, MS, Keisha Daniels." A murmur rippled through the room. One director whispered, "The janitor?" Ethan shot him a look that silenced everyone. "The analyst who just saved us millions," he corrected. Keisha stepped forward, calm and composed. "Your numbers aren't broken," she began. "Your priorities are. You're investing in outdated industries while ignoring the markets shaping the future." As she spoke, slides appeared, clean, sharp, confident. Her data didn't just make sense. It sang. When she finished, even the toughest board member applauded. Ethan looked around the room. "Gentlemen, if you're wondering how we turn around in 2 weeks, the answer is standing right here." For once, the applause wasn't polite or forced. It was real. And as Keisha looked around that boardroom, she realized she hadn't just proven herself. She'd changed the way they saw every black woman who'd ever been underestimated. Months passed, and Sterling Harlow Investments rose from near collapse to record-breaking profits. But inside those glass walls, something far more valuable changed: respect. Ethan no longer barked orders. He started listening, asking, learning. The same people who once mocked Keisha now greeted her with genuine admiration. She didn't wear a uniform anymore. She wore a tailored suit, her employee badge reading senior financial advisor. One morning, Ethan stopped by her new office. "You know," he said with a smile, "I used to think being the smartest person in the room made me powerful. But you taught me that being humble makes me human." Keisha looked up from her desk. "It's never too late to start seeing people, Ethan, not just positions." He nodded slowly. "Thank you for teaching me what real leadership looks like." She smiled softly. "And thank you for listening when it mattered." As Ethan walked away, Keisha turned toward the window overlooking the city skyline, the same view that once belonged only to others. This time, it reflected her too. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.